how did you get into music?
Music. So I was brought up in a very musical family. My mum's very musical. My dad's very sporty. But my mum was musician. She was a singer, percussionist. She played in National Youth Orchestra and things. So when I'm one of 5 children, so when we were brought up, we were all playing instruments. Little Von Trapp family. So I was basically just brought up on music all the time in our house. And then I started playing the cello when I was like 6, but there's videos of me when I was 5 or whatever playing piano, and just like all of us playing together.
And what did your mum play?
So my mum was a percussionist, but she was also a singer, so she used to sing. She was brought up in Oxford as well, so she used to sing gigs, did gigs around Oxford, but then played percussion in National Youth Orchestra.
So just purely classical?
Was singer. I don't really know what style of singer she was, but not a classical singer. She actually sang with Cliff Richard.
Really?
Yeah, Cliff Richard came and did a gig in Oxford, and her and her mate joined in or something. That's my story for my mum.
I love a bit of Cliff. I love the shadow, so I'm into Cliff.
Yeah. No, that's a funny story about her. So just brought up on all sorts of music, and my mum loves musical theatre as well, and that's how I got into musical theatre aspect as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long did you play the cello for?
So cello, I started when I was 6, and then played, all my life. And then I got more into production when I was like 16, maybe, when I did A-level music tech. And then I went off to uni, and I kind of didn't really play the cello as much. I played on a few people's sessions, and then I actually retaught myself last year for my sister's wedding.
I was going to say on your not that I've stalked you, but on your Instagram, I can see there's a cello in the studio, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, so I still play it occasionally. I would love to play it more, and I think I'd just love to keep it going regularly, just to keep that skill going, really. But yeah, retaught myself last year, which it's not easy.
No, it's not. It's a hard instrument.
Yeah.
It's like anything that because I want to learn some double bass this year. And when I play a double bass, I'm like, oh, this is like a bass guitar, but it's this way.
The other way.
And you start doing it, and you're going, yeah, this is great. And then you realise that you think you're playing in tune, but actually what you're doing is you're playing in tune to yourself. Yeah. Right?
No frets, but it's also just technique as well. It's technique of bowing, like even plucking. It's like, complicated.
Yeah. Okay, so
it's fun though.
You went from playing a musical instrument, and then you said you started getting into music tech.
Yeah.
What was it about music tech that you liked?
I think I've always been intrigued about like the behind the scenes things. It's like whenever you see behind the scenes videos, it's like, oh, that's actually really cool. I want to know how that was made, or like production. So I think I got involved in tech probably through theatre. I was always in the show band for theatre because I was a cellist and I wanted to be in the cast, but I was like, no, you're playing the cello. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do for A-level. I knew I wanted to do music because that was my life. And at that point I was playing cello, I played the flute, played the piano, and I was also singing as well. And then music technology started at my school, and I was like, I have to do that. Like, I want to know more about behind the scenes and technology and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I ended up doing music and music tech A-level, and just loved it. And I spent every morning in the studio. They gave me a key to the studio, so I was just in there. Ended up creating mixes for like the school house competitions and that sort of things.
Was that on Cubase?
Started on Cubase and Pro Tools at the same time, and then I didn't actually learn Logic until I went to university. But I mean, once you kind of know one, you figure out the other pretty easily.
They basically all do the same thing.
Exactly.
People on the internet will disagree, but as far as I can tell, they all sound pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And do the same thing.
No, I'm a Pro Tools girl. But I use Logic a lot now. Cubase I don't use anymore, but I mean that's getting more popular now. It's just...
Well, it's interesting when I go do stuff in Germany, everyone uses Cubase. And it's weird that
I think
when they're like why do you guys use anything else?
Yeah,
I guess it's the German company, right?
I mean, Cubase is huge now.
Yeah,
but I think it's come up a lot because I feel like it's a mixture between Pro Tools and Logic. Logic is great for software instruments, for programming, that sort of thing. Pro Tools for me is amazing for editing, recording. I kind of just know my way around everything in Pro Tools. But to me, it's a little bit more scientific than Logic. Logic is very user friendly. It's like you click something and it works. Like you want reverb, you just kind of turn it up. You know. I
also think it's what you're used to, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't like Pro Tools.
Yeah.
But that's only because I spent my entire life using Logic.
Exactly.
So when I go on Pro Tools and when I have to like solo save stuff, I'm like, oh, screw you.
Yeah.
Like, this is annoying. I don't have to do this. But
no, there's like 5 buttons in Pro Tools to 1 in Logic.
Yeah,
but it's like once you know the shortcuts or that sort of thing, it's like so your brain's just full. And
it's the industry standard. Although everyone's using random stuff.
I don't know if it is anymore. Yeah. Well, it is in like bigger industry.
Yeah.
But studios and things, I feel like they're using Logic.
We get more for your money as well.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah, it's a lot cheaper.
I actually didn't, and I probably will have to do it later this year. But I didn't bother renewing my Pro Tools license thing because it used to be that everyone sent me Pro Tools files, but now everyone kind of sends WAVs.
Yeah.
And
then you just load it in whatever.
But I get it. I was only really using Pro Tools so I could get the audio off it and put it on Logic.
Yeah.
But it's just what you're used to, right? So you learn on Cubase, and I remember Cubase. I remember having a sort of like all the synths having a really specific sound to them. Does that make sense? It's like that sine wave thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I learned on as well.
Yeah.
So like I've got kind of a soft spot for it.
Yeah.
And were you mixing then, or were you creating music on it?
So when we started doing music tech, obviously it was coursework based, so we had to do like a sequencing coursework, a multi-track recording thing. So all the recording was done in Pro Tools, just because that's how my school did it. And then all the programming was done in Cubase, so we learned about software instruments and that sort of thing in there. So weirdly, we were using different programs for different things, of which we could have just used one, but that's how we just learned.
Nice.
Both of them. But.
And out of interest, how many other girls were there doing music technology?
I went to a girls' school.
Right, okay. So lots.
No.
Okay.
There were 3 of us.
Right, okay.
Who did music technology. And I was the only one that wanted to do it after.
Yeah.
The other 2 were musical, but it was evident that I wanted to spend extra hours doing it. Because
I don't know... and I think it's changing big time, but I actually don't know that many girl engineers, people who are into it at all.
Nor do I.
And I think it's also the same with certain instruments.
Yeah.
Like, because I teach, like, for example, I have various bass students.
Yeah.
And it used to be that it was only blokes who wanted to play bass.
Yeah.
But now I've got more girl students than boy students.
Wow.
And the girls are kicking the boys' ass because... boys are lazy and girls are like when it comes to I think kind of girls have in a way better cognitive skills than boys in terms of learning. I think boys are a bit more obsessive sometimes, but like I've got a few male students who are just like
obsessed with it.
You know. But I think all blokes are a little bit autistic as well, so maybe that's part of it. We'll sort of like laser focus on things.
Yeah.
But like, it's interesting to see how many girls, because
it is for me as well. They're definitely, the girls are definitely making a stand now, and there are so many groups being set up about female engineers and non-binary and those groups, but I have different opinions about it because how do I phrase this? It's like I've never struggled to get work because I'm a female.
Yeah. And
in my brain, if you're good at the job, you're good at the job, regardless of whether you're male or female or in the middle. And I feel like some of the groups that are being set up, jobs are being offered to them just because they are female or identify as a female. And to me, I've never been declined a job because I'm a female. But if you're good at the job, you're good at the job.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah,
and I work in a male-dominated industry, in theatre and in studio. It's like two different worlds, theatre and studio. But I don't know. I just don't really have a problem about it.
Yeah, I think it's weird that there would be a problem.
Yep.
And obviously I'm not involved in the theatre world, but
Yep.
I find that musicians are usually the least racist and least sexist people you'll ever meet.
Yep.
Because
it's a creative industry.
Well, everyone who does music is a weirdo. So you spend all your time with weirdos, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't like people who are different to you,
Yeah.
then you're probably doing the wrong job.
Yeah.
I
mean, people are just who they are, and it's like we do the job because we've got to a place where we can live by doing that job.
Yeah.
Of which is hard enough in itself. It's a freelance industry, it's a creative industry. It's like we're literally doing our hobby as our job.
Yeah.
And making money out of it because people want to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, that's it.
Yeah.
People pay us to entertain them.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone is accepting. It's. I don't really get where the problem is coming from, because everyone that I talk to, male, identify as males, engineers or producers or whatever, they literally don't have a problem with it.
No.
As in, it's not a problem.
No. As long as you're good at the job.
Exactly.
So the question is, are there people out there who aren't willing to put the time in to get good at what they do, and then turn around and go, well, it's because of this or it's because of that, and you know, it's difficult to know.
I've definitely been in situations where the discussions have been had about whether we should give a job to somebody because they fit the diversity.
Right.
And I've also had that where I've been involved in conversations where, oh, you're the person that identifies as a female in this department. So therefore, we fit all the diversity categories.
Yeah.
We have somebody that's gay, somebody that's a female, somebody that is a different race, that sort of thing. And I'm like, that's not right. And I hope I don't have the job because of that. And I know I don't, because I've been there for how many years, but it's...
But you're going to regret that decision when it comes to crunch time. And if you've chosen someone who maybe isn't as good at the job, and then things start to fall apart, you're going to be like,
exactly,
oh dear.
But that will soon be apparent, and it's a shame, but it's a shame that people think like that.
Yeah.
But then again, if you come into a workplace or a certain project that is white, male dominated, then people are going to question it. Yeah. But then also, have they got the job because they're incredible at the job? Which, yes, is probably the answer. But then people question, why isn't there any other diversity in there? And sometimes it's like, well, that's just how it is.
Yeah. Because
these people are amazing at the job, and that's why we've given them the job. Not because... But then people start to question it, and it's like, questioning everything.
Yeah, I definitely think there are some... I'm coming from it from a perspective of someone in bands.
Yeah.
I've definitely been in the position where people are worried about having female band members because they're worried that they're gonna get more upset about, quite rightly, the offensive things that people say in the back of a tour bus, which are offensive and jokey. Yeah. In my experience,
which I get that.
Yeah. In my experience, though, like for example. So there's an amazing singer that I work with called Alice Armstrong. She's fantastic. Yeah. And we always spend a lot of time gigging together and stuff. But sorry Alice, but she's like more laddie than I am. Yeah. Like she's more likely to offend me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I guess my point is actually I think that's most of the time that's kind of bullcrap, because I've been on tours and I've been in tour buses with guys who equally get offended by everyone joking around and being a bit laddie. Yeah. And they're like, oh, guys, what you said is really offensive. And that's fair enough, because everyone's got a different line.
But good for them for saying it.
Absolutely.
And I feel like same for us. I've definitely said it in front of a bunch of guys that I don't feel comfortable in this situation.
Yeah.
And they're fine with it. Yeah. Because either I'm mates with them anyway. Yeah. Or I'll just leave that situation. Yeah. I'll just walk out.
And also there's a way of saying to someone, hey, guys, actually I don't find that funny. Yeah. And then then that gives that person an opportunity to go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, and then you can move on.
Exactly.
I think I've definitely been in a position with some people where those people have got really righteous because someone's made a joke about something or done something silly, and then it's just like, okay, cool, we got, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a really fine line, because when you're spending, I mean, it's probably the same with you, you're spending hours and hours with each other all the time, you get silly, and you make silly jokes all the time. Everyone does.
Yeah, of course.
And everyone's just got a point, where a line there's somewhere, and you have to work out where the jokes are.
But I feel like that's with everyone.
Yeah.
But I guess people are more cautious whether it is a female in that male-dominated group, or but then you never know, do you?
No.
You don't know how they're going to react.
In one of the bands I play with this German drummer, and I'm a Jew. Yeah. So we're constantly making jokes about that all the time. It's constant digging at each other, and it was quite funny. We were on tour somewhere once, and we picked up someone who was joining the tour who we didn't know very well, and me and him were making sort of these in jokes all the time, and then this new person who came joined in and started making the in jokes too, and then it was super awkward because we were doing it because we knew each other, and it was coming from a certain place, and they were making the jokes because they thought, I'd join in as well, and everyone was sort of turning around going like. It's like, god, there's so much nuance. There's so much nuance. It's all about the nuance and the context of when people say things at the end of the day. Yeah. Anyway, we've gone on a tangent, haven't we?
We really have.
Back
to when I was 18 years old.
Yeah. So after you did music tech, and you decided at A level, I guess, and then you decided that you really liked it. Yeah. Where did you go next?
I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed media and creating, that sort of thing. And then I didn't really want to go to university because I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I didn't really feel ready to do that. And like music was my thing. Like I didn't really know anything else. But then I found a university that was close by that offered a 2-year degree course called SAE, and I
think it's where I may have met you.
Possibly.
I either met you at SAE or at So Far Sounds. Yeah. But when at So Far Sounds, I definitely knew that you worked at SAE.
I think your band might have.
I think we came to do a recording.
Yeah.
At SAE.
Yeah. So I ended up. That was like 5 minutes from where I lived at the time, and I, went there, did a degree in audio production.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
You can say what you like now because it doesn't exist, does it?
It doesn't exist. The Oxford one doesn't exist anymore. I did enjoy it by the end of it. Yeah. At the start, absolutely hated it. No. Because I came from a very, very different background to a lot of people. I was the very privileged white privately educated girl who got A stars at A level. Yeah. Coming into you didn't need much to get into the course. Yeah. Not sounding big-headed, but from the results I got from GCSE, I could have got in when I was 16. It was that sort of, and I just wasn't used to that sort of not pressured wanting to achieve the best environment, because people went just because it was a course. And
interesting.
Yeah.
So there were people there who were like, I don't know what to do.
It was a bit of a dust course.
I'll do music technology.
Yeah. On the other hand, there were people that is what they wanted to do. Yeah. And looking back on it now, there were probably about 5 of us from my class, and those people stood out from the start that that's what they wanted to do. And we're the ones that are actually making a living out of it now. Yeah. There were 30 people in my class, and different environment.
It's very interesting you said that, because I had a similar thing when I went to uni. Yeah. That I was really excited about it, and I was, I'd spent a lot of time on my instrument. Yeah. And I got there, and I was like, why is everyone shit? Yeah. Why can't you play the instrument that you say you're here to play? Yeah. And I was all a bit confused, and it was the same thing I think as you, that because there's the standard to get in wasn't very high. Yeah. And kind of anyone could join in. Yeah. And do it, which is fair enough, because I know some people who came in, started here, and then ended up here by the end. Yeah. But I think I found the same thing as you. I found it challenging because I was like,
I just didn't want to appear as big-headed and a bit of a know-it-all, but I kind of was. Yeah. And because I knew a lot. Yeah. I knew a lot about music because I've been classically trained since I was 5 years old. And so I knew a lot about that anyway. and I got good grades at school,
Mm-hmm.
and I pay attention, and my work ethic is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were set assignments, I did them to a high standard.
Mm-hmm.
And
what were the lecturers like? If you wanted to thrive, could you?
Yeah. And I think that's why I then enjoyed it by the end of it, because I made friends with them.
Yeah.
They offered me work, and I ended up running a studio with one of the supervisors there after. And some of the lecturers who were in the industry anyway, they would get me to assist on some of their projects, which was great.
That's exactly what you want from a university.
Yeah.
Is people who, because I had the same thing in mine when I started doing gigs with some of the lecturers.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's what you want, because they're pushing you out into the place you want to be.
Yeah.
And then when you're in that place, that's when you realise how much you don't know.
Yeah.
You start to go, oh, I thought I knew everything. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
But then
at
I
all.
started to freelance in theatre then as well. So I would be doing week-long shows or in Oxford. And then the day I handed in my dissertation, the uni offered me a job there. So I ended up then working there for like a year and a half as one of the supervisors, looking after the studios.
How was it doing your studies and working in the industry at the same time?
Bizarre. No, it's because we never learnt theatre, and obviously the jobs I was doing, they were a lot in theatre, so I was trying to learn that industry as well. But also, I think some people were like, oh, well, like, she's working instead of doing this group assignment with us. And I was like, no, I'm doing both. As in, but if I get offered a job for a week on a show, then please just understand I am still doing the work. I just might not be able to come to this meeting. And
you didn't think ever at some point, I might dump the degree
No.
and I might just,
No.
just jump straight in.
No. Because I have to finish the degree.
Because that's the way you work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
As in, I have to get it first.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't regret that decision, because you had a job in the university afterwards as well. So.
Yeah. No, I loved it, and I love teaching people. And then you then taught in the studios, but because it was a flexible job, it still meant I could do my other projects as well.
Nice.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just still wanted to get experience in the different industries, and having that job let me do that, and like I could still use the studios, so I'd bring my friends in to record in the studios when I wasn't working.
And the facilities there, or
the facilities were
there,
incredible.
Yeah, they were mad.
Like
weren't they?
for a university, having that sort of equipment.
Some of the big room, they had that
Neve
big
Genesis.
room. Yeah, and they had with the two rooms either side.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Abbey Road's stuff, isn't it? It's humongous.
The space was incredible.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got to learn on those sorts of desks with like outboard and like you wouldn't get that somewhere else.
I think it's funny, like all that or learning to use the big desks and everything, because now, like, I don't know about you, but like I'm entirely mostly in the box, other than my little spring reverbs I showed you.
Yeah.
But
well, my little studio is my laptop.
Yeah.
It's like, apart from in theatre, but that's a different sort of desk anyway. So,
yeah. And I have like one cable that attaches my interface to my thing.
Yeah.
And so like I think it's really good to learn how to do it on a desk, because it makes your brain think in a certain way.
You literally go from the top to the bottom, and you're like, okay, I now understand these signal flows of the desk. How does it get into computer?
Yeah.
And it's like...
And a door is basically a signal flow, isn't it?
Yeah.
But a digital signal flow.
Yeah.
But what I like about not having any of that stuff, because I learned to do stuff playing in studios and then constantly asking questions and then doing it that way. But now I love that when I have a problem now, I just change the one cable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you've got a massive desk and they're like,
what is it?
It's not working. And they're like, okay. And then you like change that cable, change that cable, change that cable. And you could be there for like
But I think that was the good
hour.
thing about me getting the job after, because I was then looking after the studios and teaching the students. We ended up doing the exams for like the student signal flow. So it's like we were the ones that had to solve the problems.
Yeah.
So I probably learnt as much doing that job as I did on the course.
Yeah.
Because on the course it's like, okay, this time you're learning this, you're learning this, you're learning this, you're going to do assignments in this. and then we move on to something else. And actually having that job was like, okay, step back a little bit. Do I actually understand the actual signal flow of this sort of stuff?
And there's always stuff, I don't know if you find, it's always stuff that you can't anticipate will happen.
Yeah.
And it could be the most random.
Yeah.
It could just be like, this USB thing needs unplugging and putting back in for no reason at all.
Yeah.
And the computer just has a freak out.
But I still have that now. It's like, I just did 72 shows of Panto, and middle of one of the shows, we had a Mac Mini running main stage controlled by 2 USB keyboards. So I was just taking the feed out of the Mac Mini. For some reason, middle of the show, no signal. Searched everything. Oh, was the keyboard come out? Oh, was it something? Has the swapped over the Y cable? Nothing like that. The Mac Mini had muted itself. Why? Oh wait, because somebody had accidentally pressed the mute button. But why would we look for that? Because it just randomly happened. It's like you just just can't.
I love compressing things down, trying to make everything as simple as possible.
Yeah.
That's because you just, otherwise things can get in the way of the flow and the creativity of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess at SAE, you learnt loads, and you were teaching at the same time.
So, I mean, it kind of turned into teaching because the students would come to us because we were the supervisors. We were obviously based down by the studio, so if they had a problem, we would go in and explain. And I think for me, just explaining in the simplest way possible and just making sure that they understand and just like being with them in case they don't, because they would bring in people from the outside. They would bring in external people to record and like be in the studio. It's like you don't want them to have a problem with people who don't know the space. So it's like even if you hang out with them during their session, because we know how that feels when something doesn't work, and it's like we want to fix it for them. Or
I definitely did. I've done quite a few recordings at SAE because as you know, they offered free recordings for people who to do stuff, and it's always quite funny doing it because some sessions there went really well, and other sessions it's like the students are like literally just patting in, like sweating, panicking because it's like, why is nothing working? I have no idea why nothing's working. And then they'd be like, to us, they'd be like, do you know why it's not working? Be like, I don't know. It's just 32 channel desk as a Zell desk.
I just had a memory. I think I stepped in on one of your sessions.
Definitely.
In the Neve studio, I remember coming in and then being like, oh, this is little brother Eli, who are in the studio. Oh wait, I know you guys because I've done so far with you.
We were doing a live session. I remember now. We were doing a live session and we did 2 tracks off the EP that we had then, which the track was Tooth and the other one
I can't remember who was engineering, but I remember coming in. Oh,
I can't remember either.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was a guy called Jake, if I remember correctly. But and stuff not working. I find it funny, like, because when you're still learning to do that stuff, when someone has a request that you don't expect, it throws you off. Like if you're like, oh, can I have the click track, but can you change the sound of it or something? And they'd be like, exactly. And they'd just freak out sort of thing. Or can I hear back what I just played in my headphones? And they're like,
well, if you come into the studio, I can do this, but you have to mute this. And then,
So, it's...
No, I enjoy problem solving when I know the answer.
It's satisfying, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing worse, though, when you can't figure it out.
No.
And you're just unplugging everything. And everything's just, like, chaotic.
Yeah.
So, you did that, and were you doing... Because that's where I obviously met you at SAE, and then I think I probably spoke to you properly at some of the So Far Sounds gigs. Where you were doing sound tech stuff.
Yeah, so I got into So Far through one of my lecturers at SAE was a guy called Ian Woolman, who I have a lot to thank for all of my work.
A lot of people talk about that guy.
Ian Woolman.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Ian, you're amazing.
A lot of people who've gone to SAE have said to me, oh, it's this guy called Ian, he's fantastic.
Because he was working in the industry.
Right.
And he came in and lectured us in business, I think. But he was there for years. Like I met him on an open day when I was 16, and he will tell the story now where I was talking to him about scholarships to get into the place, and he was like, hey, you wanted to come in when you were 16 but you couldn't, I didn't let you.
Right.
I was like, all right, that's it. No, so I still work with him now, so that's how many years? 11 years since I last met him, since I met him first. But yeah, so Ian got me to assist on some sessions with him. He was doing some live videos and I just went just to monitor audio levels, and then he got me to assist on Sofa, so he used to do the sound, but he needed some help, so I would go and just monitor the recorder. And then he ended up doing more photography, so then I ended up doing more sound, and then 5 years later it was just me on sound.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
But you just meet so many people there. Yeah, hence where we met.
Yeah. And so how long were you at SCE for?
So SE, I started in 2013 and then did the course till 2015, and then I think I left at the end of 2016 to do Panto. To do a full run of Panto. And then I was like, I need to do something else. And then I was self-employed. Didn't have any work.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to just do it, because there were a lot of changes happening at SE and a lot of the jobs changed, and I was like, I just need to get out.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Well, everything comes to a natural end, doesn't
Exactly.
it? At a time.
Sometimes you have to take that jump and it's really scary.
Yes.
And it's like, you may not have any work, but you know you're going to get it at some point.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to do it for yourself.
Well, it's like what we were talking about earlier, like being self-employed is freaky.
Yeah.
I don't know if you find this, but like I kind of think that, like, because I do playing and production-y stuff and mixing-y stuff, and a bit of teaching, and it's like, actually I don't really have one job, I just do a whole bunch of jobs.
Exactly the same. And I think even now, I mean especially now, I'm going through a bit of a what am I doing kind of thing, because theatre and studio, they're two different worlds anyway, and I'm heavily involved in both. But it's like, oh wait, I do live sound for theatre, I love mixing musicals, but then, oh, I might go to London and dep as a number 2 and do the radio mics for that. Oh wait, but then I do video production as well. Oh, I do audio production. Oh wait, I do some recording. Oh, I do some sound designing for museums. And it's like, there's 7 different industries on their own.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I saw on your thing that you did some sound design for something called Whispering Wood.
Yes.
Which I thought was intriguing.
Yeah, so the sound design, I love sound design, which is also like bringing in theatre world into studio world. You create that theatre world in studio. So that sound design for the Whispering Wood was for a museum called the Story Museum in Oxford, who I've worked with, well, I've had connections with for, for 9 years-ish, maybe. So I started off just doing some story editing for them, cleaning up recordings, editing, top and tailing, that sort of thing. And then they asked me to sound design some of their they did a big refurb. So I sound designed some of their exhibitions. And one of the big ones called the Whispering Wood is all of my sound design, which is great. It's like, it's great fun.
So you go through the exhibit and you hear different sounds, and you press a button and something happens.
So the exhibition actually changed probably about 3 or 4 times. So I started it, the first one was done before COVID, which was, you walk through, there's like surround soundscape, which is going on, speakers above you. And then there's trees in the Whispering Wood, and each of those trees there's a story. And originally it guided you through from each tree, like so. And then COVID happened, and then we changed the exhibition to a headphone exhibition. So there was still surround sound speakers, but then we made it a timed, like 20-30 minute piece where all wireless headphones, people would literally be guided to the tree, and it'd just be like, okay, walk forward, like you'll hear that story. Oh, what can you see now? And it literally walked you through. So that was a set thing.
So here's a question. So are you mixing this in surround sound, or are you mixing it in stereo?
Well, when I say surround sound, in the exhibition there are 7 or 8 speakers dotted around. So I made 7 or 8 mono files. Right. Of which when I worked out how they would work together when people walk through the thing. So it's basically, there's like a drone through the whole thing. It's like a loop on a half an hour loop. And then I recorded about 1,000 whispers of like famous story phrases from everyone that worked at the Story Museum. And then that's why it's whispers, because they're whispering the phrases. So they are like...
Sounds a bit
dotted.
scary.
It's a bit weird. No, it's cool. I mean, some people have said it's a little bit scary. It's not meant to be. No, but that's like birds and wind noises and forest, essentially.
It's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we changed...
You're recording this yourself at your home as well.
Yeah. Well,
and your
a lot of it was... I went to the Story Museum, so I took my little setup and recorded there. And then some storytellers came to the studio. So we did it that way. But after then the lockdown ended, that sort of thing, we then changed it again to... What is it now? People can freely walk around and then like move something in front of the tree and then the story plays. So it's less guided. So yeah, we changed that again, which is great now. Because the original thing was to have like sound showers, so that basically they're really directional speakers that when you're at the tree you can only hear that story. But they're really expensive. But now they've found a way to make it work in that capacity.
So you basically, I guess, was there a level of trial and error? Like, I think this is going to work in this speaker, but I don't know until you actually do it.
Yes. So I wasn't in charge of any of the system things. It was like, this is what speaker's going to be in the tree.
Right, okay.
But also because of the materials the tree was made with, I had no idea how it was going to sound.
Yeah.
So I did all the work and then I would go in and listen to everything. And just see if I needed to change anything or... Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you didn't have to like have a surround system,
No.
sound system in your... Because there's the whole... Because I know everyone's really into this Dolyby Atmos thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't see the point.
Yeah.
I would never ever listen to music in that way.
Yeah.
I get it for film.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But like, I know that it's becoming a popular thing.
It's getting massive, and I only know this because we... I work for a songwriting retreat company, and we are looking into running masterclasses, and one of the masterclasses we wanted to do was Atmos sound. So we went to the PMC speaker studio in London. They've got an Atmos studio, which anyone can go to for free. It's great. And we learnt all about Atmos and just like how big it's getting. I don't get the point in it. Honestly, it's incredible, but it's like, are people actually going to listen in Atmos? But then people now are, when they're releasing music, they then do an Atmos mix, a Dolby mix, and it's like, okay,
fair enough.
Why?
Sounds terrible if you play it on normal speakers.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's like people have to have that system.
Yeah.
To be able to do it.
I don't know anyone who has that system. No. I mean, I find it hard enough just to get people to listen to stuff on some speakers.
Yeah.
Let alone, I mean, I think Bluetooth sounds like crap to me.
Yeah.
Those little iPod headphone things sound like crap.
Yep. But then they're also, so Apple have released their spatial audio.
Oh yeah.
Which is essentially what Dolby is.
But
it's just
headphones.
fake.
Yeah.
And it's really bizarre.
I
When
don't
you
know
like
how that
move your
works.
head, it's like.
Well, that existed for mixing for a while.
Yeah.
I remember Waves brought out that thing that was like, you put your headphones on and then you turn, it tracks your head movement. So you can be like, I want to mix as if I'm in this studio or I'm in that studio. I want to turn my head. But I was like, this makes no sense to me.
No.
Why would I want to mix as if I'm in blah blah studio?
Yeah.
That's weird to me anyway.
Yeah.
And B, you don't know what headphones I have.
No. No.
So I don't get it.
No.
But that technology exists.
Yeah.
I think it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I mean,
it's incredible, but and people now are doing listening parties for their releases in those Atmos studios, and it's like you have that incredible experience, but then go home and listen on stereo.
Yeah, go home and listen to onto your iPad like this.
Exactly.
I don't think anyone is going to be like, let's put on a record.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. Let's put it on. I'll just see. I won't move, because if you have a listening party, right, everyone's got to be in the center of the room, and even if someone stood next to you, they're going to block this. I don't get it. And the way I do mixing is that I sit there, put my monitors up, I mix, and I walk around and then I listen to it on the car stereo, and because you don't really get a sense for what anything sounds like until you move about.
Yeah.
And I find that you want it to be like, I put this on at a party, and it sounds good if I'm in the bathroom or if I'm in this sort of thing. I think it's just invented by bored studio engineers who are like, let's make it surround sound because I'm bored of mixing
I feel
in
like
stereo.
people are doing different approaches with it though. It's like there's like the right way to mix in Atmos an album, but then people are taking it down the creative route, and it's like, okay, how creative can we get with this? So when we went to PMC, we also went to Metropolis, and one of the engineers I know there, Mike Hillier, he showed us in their Atmos studio, and he mixes a lot of the Atmos stuff there, but some of the artists take it down the more creative route and literally move stuff everywhere.
That's cool.
That's incredible.
Like listen to it, like you know, like on those old Jimi Hendrix records where he does a solo and it moves.
Everything.
It's like that, but on crack.
Yeah.
It's like moving around your head.
So he was like automating everything everywhere, and it's like that's an experience.
So how would you have to have basically the same set of speakers times however many speakers that you have?
So it was 11. Was it 11 or 14? I think it's 11. But yeah, exactly the same speakers, and then you've obviously got the subs as well.
But surely the fear of phase is that would you know like and where do you put the
technical?
Where do you put the screen?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you know, like, because I always have this. I'm mixed when I set my stuff up for mixing.
Yeah.
I actually have the screen far away from me, so it's not in front of the speakers.
Yeah.
It's not bouncing because I've got a big screen.
Yeah.
But like.
So in these studios that I had, they had the screen like in front, and then a couple of meters behind. That's where the first row of speakers were.
Okay.
So they had the centre, the sides, the
so
surround
a small
up.
Speaker, I guess. Smaller screen.
Smaller screen.
Yeah.
And then side speakers, backs, the upper ones.
Yeah.
And then subs in the middle.
So you're probably like mixing like. You don't want to have your head down, do you? Yeah.
If you're sat upright.
Yeah.
And then literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
The calibration that must be needed. That would hurt my brain.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. But we listened to at the PMC studio. We listened to a recording with Gregory Porter that was done live. So that was recorded in Atmos essentially. So the mic was in the middle, and it was like you were there. Like incredible.
So
vocals and then full orchestra all around you. So it's like you were in.
So it's not a stereo mic it's being recorded with.
No.
It's a mic that somehow records things from multiple angles.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It's like those binaural heads that you can get that do it in binaural, but obviously that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I quite like stereo mics. I've seen some really cool stuff done with them.
Yeah.
The idea of having a mic that can record everything that's around it, but it's not in mono.
Yeah.
That's a really weird concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, nice. It's all interesting stuff. I'm just never, ever, ever gonna do it. I imagine it's just not in my world. But I'm kind of old school.
It's a cool concept.
Yeah,
and if you get the chance, you can go down and mix at their studio for free.
Really?
Yeah, you can just go and they'll teach you how to use it.
Wow.
I'll give you the contact.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I'd probably be like, I don't know.
No, I think because they're trying to get more people into it.
Yeah.
It's like engineers that want to go down and just do a little bit of mixing.
I love that idea that you said of a listening party, where you're having this really, cool experience.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like with all the virtual, like you can go see ABBA now and you see the
Voyage.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
In that environment, I can imagine it. Or on something like Oculus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
That would be cool.
So you watch your favourite actually it's probably more like shows, isn't it? And you can look around in the Oculus and you feel everything around you.
But then again, it then gets really theatrical, because that's what we do in theatre.
Yeah.
We have all the surrounds. And then the designers decide whether to use them as effects or automate stuff from speaker to speaker. Yeah.
When I went to go see Lady in Black.
Oh yeah.
And they had some really scary stuff
happening
over there, and behind you.
Yeah.
And I was genuinely scared the heck out of me, because there was one point where something appeared behind me, and I do it this way, and there was a woman dressed all in black, and I was literally, as a tear came out of my eye, I was so scared. I was like, "Ugh!" And I was like, really terrible. It's really clever stuff, though.
Oh yeah,
really, really clever stuff. So when you're doing when you're planning what you're going to do for Panto, is there a set way of doing stuff? Because I imagine, obviously, you want most of the voices in front of you.
Yeah.
But then you want...
So I'll design the system with somebody else, and this year he was also the sound designer. So it's kind of deciding whether he wanted to use those surround speakers in his effects and things. So generally we have like the front of house system, and then we'll add in more speakers to fill in the gaps in the theatre where the sound doesn't reach as much. But generally it's like vocals in the centre, split a bit between the front of house left and right, band in left and right. But then you also have the row of delays as well, so it's filling the whole theatre, essentially.
I forgot you have to deal with that. You also have to mix a band at the same time. Yeah.
So this year we had band with backing tracks, full cast, and then backing tracks had backing vocals on them as well. And then click tracks that only the band could hear, so they can run the backing tracks.
And are the band, are they mostly like using like digital amps and electric drum kits and that sort of thing, so it's not too loud?
Yeah, so this year we had electric drums with loads of hand percussion, acoustic percussion, and then the MD was the keys player. He was also controlling the backing tracks. And then we had guitarist, bassist who also had USB keyboard that was going into main stage on the computer. Drummer had a keyboard as well. And then they're all on headphones. So I'll control all of their mixes, but they can all chat to each other.
Out of interesting, boring question.
Yeah.
How do you transport USB over a long
so we had
space?
They had a computer
okay.
in the pit. So we had a Mac Mini in the pit that just had a QLab file that was sending triggers to my computer, because all the backing tracks were on my computer. But then the Mac Mini was running main stage for the keyboard patches. And then the guitarist had pedals and things that he did his guitar patches with.
Because I struggle to send USB from here to over there
next door.
Because USB just craps itself when it has to go too
so
far.
the longest was from where we're sat.
Interesting.
No. And
Weirdly, haven't sorted that out yet.
No.
Someone hasn't thought of some way to do it.
No. But then everything was network.
Yeah.
So it was network from me at the back of the auditorium through all of the stalls down there, and then also network from me up to the lighting box, and then network from me to the DSM who was controlling sound effects this year.
These were Ethernet cables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So DSM had a KVM, which basically is just display and mouse. So she was just looking at my computer. So we were essentially running at the same time. So any problems, I can just step in. Mad setup.
Yeah. And do you have to think of how it's set up, or is set up at the theatre already?
I planned all of that. So I planned all the network setup. Because generally it's down to the sound person to try and work out all of that. And I came in as the head of sound for that.
Every theatre, I assume, is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've done it different in different years, but that's the most efficient way to do it.
And people are on in-ear mono headphones, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all on, they're just on headphone amps.
Yeah.
And then I'll just do their mixes. Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot to think about, isn't it?
My brain still hurts trying to think about it now. No, honestly, the setup is crazy.
Yeah.
For it. And it is always going to be crazy, and you're always going to be on a time crunch.
Yeah.
And it's just working out all the network stuff, and then it's working out programming the desk, which I do as well, and then working out the band stuff, then it's working out all the radio mics, and just like, have you got enough channels for everything?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, is this the first job where you've actually had to do it all, think of it all yourself, or have you had other jobs before where you've had to do this?
Yeah, so I've done it quite a lot, but Panto was always the biggest. So I used to be head of sound at the theatre, and obviously then everything's down to you. And then I got brought in for a lot of the Amdram shows, so the musicals, which were down to me. A more simple setup than Panto, but it's still a big set. I mean, you've got an orchestra of 15, 20 people, so it's trying to work out that, then a cast with like 20 radio mics.
So, out of interest, how do you go about miking up an orchestra? My world is mostly like rock music and stuff.
Yeah.
And occasionally making making a small string section sound like a bigger string section.
Yeah.
But how do you go about something that big?
It's a lot, but it's exactly the same thought processes as you would use in a studio, which is why I think my studio work definitely helps with theatre, because you learn about mics, you learn about sound theory. It's like you still have a full drum kit to mic up, and then you've obviously got bass, guitar, whatever, but it's whether they then bring their amps, so you've still got the acoustic sound of their amps coming out, and then you've got a full string section, you've got a reed section, but generally, because it is an orchestra, they tend to mix themselves, essentially, because that's what the conductor's for. And you generally kind of just leave it be.
So you're generally just doing, if you're going to mic it, just stereo miking the whole orchestra.
Well, I tend to mic everything individually. So you've still got 20 channels.
Yeah.
Which, because the drum tends to put themselves in a booth, so that's very isolated. So you still need to bring that through the system.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to mic everything individually to get it through the whole system to reach the whole auditorium. Because obviously you've got a really loud acoustic sound at the front, but at the back of the auditorium and in the circle, you've not got it. And you might lose the low end from the bass, or lose some of the violins or something.
So are you miking up each section or each instrument?
An instrument.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So I set up a production last week, and then someone else is mixing it this week. And we had 22 channels in the band, which is like violin 1, violin 2, cello, bass, guitar, like everything individually, because then you then have the scope to turn up things if it doesn't reach points of the auditorium. And
is it microphones or pickups or
mixture? So keys are DI'd, and then microphones on the strings, on the reeds. I mean, it depends what the venue's got, essentially, and whether they have the money to hire in things. I mean, I'd love to hire in DPA clip mics for everything. Yeah. And then you've got the closest sound possible, and you can do whatever you want with it.
That stuff sounds awesome as well.
It does. But you just don't have that.
Yeah.
So it's just using whatever dynamic or condensed mics you've got, and then drum set if you've got that, or
wow.
Mixture.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But then it's working out the monitors in the pit as well, and whether some people would prefer headphones, so then it's doing the headphone mixes plus wedges in the pit, and whether
feedback sounds like it would be a freaking nightmare.
Yep. And then whether they can actually hear the singers as well, and whether then the singers can hear them properly.
I think in-ear monitors are the way to go when possible.
Yeah.
I know in my world, there's a lot of musicians who don't like to use in-ear monitors. I totally get it, because they're used to having that thing on stage. With my band, we use in-ear. We have our own, basically our own setup for in-ear monitors. So we turn up with our in-ear monitors rig and just plug into it, and then we do our own thing. Yeah,
that's lovely.
And it's great. But if you've not used in-ear monitors before, it's super weird.
Yeah.
But now I'm used to doing both. But I love using in-ear monitors.
It's just getting the mix of everything, isn't it? And it's but then also feeling like you're playing live rather than in a studio.
Yeah. Having a mic for the audience is sometimes good, right?
Exactly.
People like that.
Yeah. And some people might want like the show relay mics, or because they just want to hear the interaction from everyone else.
I remember last gig I did with Little Brother Eli, we did at the O2.
Yeah.
And it was a really exciting, big sold out show. It was really exciting. And I had my in-ears in the whole time. And it wasn't till the end of the gig when I took them out, and it was like, wow, everyone was screaming, and everyone was cheering, because I couldn't hear people cheering in my ears. It sounded like people just going, and a bit of me was going, oh, this isn't going very well, is it? Sort of thing. Yeah. It's having that excitement of the audience. I guess for theatre musicians, it's a bit different because they're not running around on stage.
Yeah.
So they don't need the adrenaline rush or the ego trip that I require.
I mean, the show is just the same thing. Well, it's meant to be the same thing. Yeah.
So do you enjoy doing theatre as much as you do live bands, like doing records and stuff?
Yes. Well, I love mixing live shows, musicals. I possibly enjoy recording live bands a little bit less than that, but then I love all the other studio stuff. So I love working with artists, singer-songwriters, and sound designing, and the other aspects of that.
Yeah. Do you enjoy mixing, as in mixing a record on the computer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love mixing. I'm gonna cough. Love mixing. Love editing. Yeah.
Love mastering. Sorry.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna cough. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, so I do a lot of mastering as well. Yeah, so that's good fun. Just like polishing the record off.
I don't do mastering. It's like a dark art for me. I can do it.
Yeah.
But like it's not my.
I think that's the thing. It's like people can do it, but it's whether they understand what they're trying to achieve.
I like mixing and getting someone else to master it, because the problem I find is that I've already got it to the stage where I think it sounds really good.
Yeah.
And then I like to send it to someone else because.
But that's the sign of a good mix.
Yeah.
But then also, I feel like people that mix their own records or other people's records shouldn't necessarily then master it.
I think I agree.
Because you've trained your ears to get it to a good mix, and then it's like, oh, hang on, what actually do I need to change with this?
Yeah.
Which you've got used to it.
Yeah, I think for example, my own band, Little Brother Eli, always get someone else to mix and master it, because I've done the demo.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote the song with Alex the singer, and then we did the demo, and then we did the recording, and by which point everything just sounds wrong to me.
But your ears have just adjusted.
Yeah.
To how it is.
I can't hear what's good and what's bad anymore. So if I send it to someone else, that's great. Although I think that our next record I'll end up doing it purely for financial reasons.
Yeah.
But I love, and also I love hearing someone else's take on a mix. Right, you'll send it off and it will come back, and you'll be like, oh, I didn't hear it that way, but now I like it more.
Yeah.
Or you say, actually, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But mastering it for me is a bit of a dark art, and I would rather send it to someone else to get done.
Mastering, I feel like people definitely approach it in different ways as well.
Yeah.
They tend to have like their way of doing it. It's like if you send a mix off to Metropolis, their online service, it may not get as much thought as somebody you know who's a mastering engineer, who then you'll send references to and be like, oh, I want it to sound like this. Because they turn it up. They add some sparkle. Yeah. They add some subs.
See, that's the thing, because it's like.
But if people say what's mastering,
that's what it is.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
And it's maybe you don't want it that squashed, because I think people are trying to get away from that now, this whole loudness thing. But I'm still trying to work out exactly different people's different approaches of it, and like what they may do different to another mastering engineer. Because essentially they're trying to achieve the same thing. But then it's down to their ears and what they hear in the mix as well.
Yeah.
And it's whether they hear, oh, this area is a little bit muddy, or it does need a little bit more definition on the vocals or something. But then they are limited in what they do. I
think also mastering engineers tend to have, if it's a dedicated mastering engineer, they've probably got a better room than some of us.
But then
do.
It's also their output as well. If they run it through one thing that makes it sound incredible, then somebody else hasn't got that. Yeah. And tape machine, like the guy I use, I'll show you some of his stuff later. Panoramic mastering Nick. Oh yeah.
He lives in Australia, which is cool.
Yeah,
but he's got nice gear, but he's also got like a tape machine and stuff. Yeah. So when I'm doing stuff that's more, I guess the more rock stuff, just like nicely just squishes it all together nicely. And if I ever have an issue, if I'm like, oh, it's a bit compressed, or there's too much high end, or there's too much this or too much that, I can just call him and just say, can you change that? And he just does it immediately.
Yeah.
I've never used any of the big mastering services. Have you?
I've used Metropolis quite a bit because other clients want to go down that route.
Yeah.
And they come back sounding the same, as in like I can tell what they've done.
Yeah.
And because it's the same for every record that's come back.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the Metropolis sound.
Right. Okay.
But then some mixes you'll hear on the radio or whatever, and then you find out they've been mastered at Metropolis. It's like
okay.
It's just something about the way they'll squash it, make it as loud as possible.
Yeah.
And
I hate that shit.
Sparkle and sub.
I hate it when things come back sounding overly compressed.
I mean, listen to Ed Sheeran's album a couple of albums ago.
Ugh.
I can't remember what it is, but it's actually distorting.
Yeah.
Because of how loud they've tried to make it. But then other records I've got back from the Metropolis stuff, they sound amazing because they are loud, but it's also there's still the movement in there. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
I like the idea that people are sending stuff in and they've got like a preset. And they just click in a preset.
I mean, it takes
like Isotope or something.
It takes them half an hour.
Right. Okay.
Not even that, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's.
And then you pay £200.
Yeah, which is a lot for mastering, isn't it? You know, because I don't know a lot about it, but I think mastering doesn't take as long as mixing a record. Because if I'm mixing a record, I'd probably spend on average, I'd probably spend a day on each track. Probably. Let's say it takes me a day to get it to the point where I want it.
But it's not even that. It's like you'll then come back to it the next day with fresh ears and be like,
what the fuck was I doing?
Yeah, because you can't. For me, I'll struggle to spend a whole day doing it because I'm like, okay, I've now hit this point where I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So then you come back the next day and it's like, oh, you can hear that.
Yeah, yeah. Something like really obvious as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I find that I spend quite a lot of time. I know other people don't do this, but I spend a lot of time listening to other records. Yeah. Because, like, I'll put on, I don't know, something mixed by Andy Wallace or something like something generic, something like Smells Like Teen Spirit. I'll put on and I'll go,
oh, hang on.
Oh, okay, this sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, my record has to sound as good as this if I can get it there.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do, because Nirvana were really good, so it's not going to sound as good as Nirvana. But like, I don't know if you do that, like listening to a lot of other things to figure out what's going on.
But then it's also listening to it with the artist as well and what they like in certain things. And if I found that if I'm producing a record with an artist, I'll always start, okay, what do you like? Like, what records do you like at the minute? Like, artists, that sort of thing. What do you like in that record? Because in some records, they might just like the bass. They like the way they like the bass tone, or they like the production on the bass, or that sort of thing. Oh wait, they like the vocal production in this song. So it's like trying to create them, and then when you do them reference, it's listening to those different aspects.
It's interesting that you say that, because actually some people say I want it to sound like this, but they want
a
specific
but why?
element.
Yeah, it's not the whole song. It's the guitar tone.
Yeah.
Or the way the vocal sounds. It's the way there's not just one vocal. Like, they'll double track it, or they'll octave it, or something. And
I think at the end of the day, actually, as well, is that, like, I came to this realisation, like, I remember I really wanted a vocal part to sound like a Michael Jackson thing. Yeah. And obviously, other than double tracking it, which is what he does a lot of, I'm like, it sounds like Michael Jackson because he's Michael Jackson. And I'm not, and the record we're working on isn't as good as Thriller. Yeah. The actual song isn't as good. The arrangement isn't as good. So we can try and do it like that, but the reality is...
But you haven't got Quincy Jones.
No one's Quincy Jones. No. Did you follow Rick Beato's channel?
Yeah.
He just did a thing with Steve Lukather.
I watched it.
It's really good. But really interestingly, so it's Beat It. Yeah. Someone messed up the tape on that, and they were only left with just the vocals. So the vocals on one tape machine and all the rhythm section stuff on another tape machine, and it got buggered. So they had to redo after the vocals the whole rhythm track again.
No way.
So Jeff Porcaro plays drums on Beat It, which I didn't know. Yeah. And Steve Lukather plays guitar and bass on it. And so they had to track it again just to Michael's vocals with no click track.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that.
So Jeff Porcaro listened to the song and made his own click track with sticks. Wow. And then went and re-recorded. That's how good he was at drums. And went and re-recorded. I mean, the rhythm playing on that is phenomenal.
I mean, that track's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a massive Michael Jackson fan.
I love that all his stuff, it's all real instruments.
Yeah.
It's like
everything is.
all the drums.
Yeah.
I guess the later like Dangerous albums and stuff, that is sample drums and stuff. But like the early stuff, it's all real drums. And you listen to it and you go,
well, you just don't get that now.
Sounds phenomenal.
But I'm also a massive Whitney fan, and it's like her stuff is the same.
Yeah. But all that music, like the Whitney Houston's music and stuff, like it takes way longer. Like I use some phenomenal musicians when possible.
Yeah.
It's more expensive and it takes longer.
Yeah.
But the results are greater, I think. But I get why people don't do it anymore, because why would I record a real drum kit when I've got Ultimate Drummer?
Well.
Which to me sounds like crap. Anyway. I'm not really into. If I can record the live instrument, I'm like, let's do that.
Oh, 100%.
Way better.
100%. Yeah, I'd much rather edit a live drummer than try and make program drums sound real.
Yeah, although I've been fooled.
Really?
by some stuff. They I can't remember. It was a piece of software like Ultimate Drummer, and someone had spent ages programming it. I think they played it in themselves on Electric Drum Kit.
Oh, okay.
And then
so it's got the velocities. It's got
But then when you compare it to a real drum kit, you go, oh, this doesn't sound worse. Depends what sound you want.
Yeah.
But it sounds different.
Yeah.
It's particularly stuff like cymbals.
Yeah.
You can't recreate cymbals, can you? I'm like, how do you do that?
No.
But it sounds different. But I think we're quite used to hearing fake drums now. Like on rock records.
Yeah.
Like there was a record, I think it was a Blackstone Cherry record I was listening to the other day.
Yeah.
And it is real drums.
Yeah.
But it's so sampled that I was like, this might as well be fake.
Yeah.
Because I can't hear actually any drums, normal drums in this.
But then a lot of people will then sample over real drums.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine used to do loads of metal music, and they would then put snare samples over everything. Yeah. Just via trigger.
So none of the actual original audio is really.
So they'll keep the overheads.
Right.
And then sample everything else.
Okay.
For timing or just like to get everything so tight, and like especially metal music, because it's so, it is so tight and consistent. Yeah. That you need every kick drum to sound the same. Yeah. Well, within reason. Use a variety of a few. But yeah.
It's not really my genre of. I've done heavy music, but not any of that modern metal stuff. It's not really what I'm aware of how it's done. No. But do you know that what's that Queens of Stone Age album? Songs for the Deaf. You know that one? Do you know how they did the drums for that?
No.
So it's got Dave Grohl playing drums, which helps.
Which helps,
you're the best drummer in the world.
Yeah, start with that.
And they did the cymbals separately. So he played the drums with like I think just triggers, like the plasticky things you hit. Played it all in, and so just recorded the kick, the snare, and the toms,
and then did cymbals.
Separately.
Interesting.
If you listen to the drums on that album, the drums sound super weird, but the hits on the individual drums are like pristine. Sounds amazing. But I saw an interview with him. He was talking about it. He was like, "Yeah, it sounds good." He was like, "But I'd never do that again." No. Because you can imagine trying to hit those things in time with what you've done previously. You just don't get the feel of it. No, not at all. But the drums do sound phenomenal on that album. I quite often put on that album when I'm like, oh, what's music meant to sound like, sort of thing. But like, it's a whole nother world, that sort of ultra, want to have things sounding ultra plasticky and well, not plasticky, but ultra sampled and some people really want that in music.
Oh yeah.
It's not really not my world.
No. I feel like my world is, I'd definitely rather do something acoustic, but then maybe that's my theatre world, as in mixing theatre, well, the musical theatre that I do, everything's live, as in, and it's like vocals, like musical theatre, it's about the vocals. Yeah. And then
blast them through,
and it's like you literally can't edit it. No. Like, as in you have to, obviously you're mixing on the fly, but it's like you're creating the way that people feel in that moment about that certain song. Yeah. And I think that's what I love about it. And then in studio, I want to try and recreate that as well. Mm-hmm. Just like keep it raw, but like make people feel something.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. It's depending on the band, it's all about trying in the studio. It's like trying to keep something that sounds real, but also produced at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's quite easy to go way too produced.
Yeah.
On Chris's album we just did, there's a lot of stuff where he did the guitar in the room with us.
Yeah.
Because he wanted that vibe. He wanted to capture his solo at that moment. Yeah. And he's a phenomenal guitarist, so he can do it.
Yeah.
I've definitely done stuff with bands where they've been like, let's do it all in the room. And I've gone, that great idea, but are you ready?
Yeah.
Because if you can't go back.
You literally can't do it. If you're doing it live, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not doing it to a click track.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some sort of bleed from somewhere. You can't do it.
But when you come across those bands who can do it,
then it's incredible.
It's like, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Who can then jump in at certain moments if they've messed up something.
Yeah.
But
I think what is that phrase? Before we had Pro Tools, we had pros. And it's that thing that's like, you know.
But then it's also trusting your technical skills as well.
Yeah.
That you can set it up in a way that is just going to sound great.
Yeah.
When they do it live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot you can do, even in my little room like this.
Mm-hmm.
I've done stuff in here with the guitar amp in the room, small amp,
the
end of the room, facing all away from the drum kit. I'm surprised how little bleed there is.
But then that's also because of your knowledge of mics as well.
Yeah.
If you put the wrong mic up, then you're going to get everything.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's you know, I'm sort of from the old school of playing music, and you probably are as well because you spent ages practicing your instrument. That like, you don't go and record or you don't go and do a performance until you are
you're ready. Yeah.
And you have to perform it really well.
Yeah.
And that's loads of work.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in the studio, that's when some bands who aren't ready, that comes into, you know, this person isn't ready to do it.
Or they're used to playing gigs where you can't listen to it back.
Yeah.
And like, if you're ready as a band and you sound great as a band, but then when you come to track stuff individually, your bassist can't get his part right, then it's apparent, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So, the other thing I want to ask you about is this Pro7ect thing, which sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think my 5 listeners will want to. There's 10.
Hello,
my mum listens, there'll be 11.
Oh, hi.
Be interested in that Pro7ect.
Yeah, so Pro7ect is, we run songwriting retreats, and it's been set up for the last 7 years. Creative director Lisa Fitzgibbon set it up.
Pro7ect 7 years, I like it.
The retreats used to be run in Brighton, and now we are collaborating with Rockfeild Studios in Monmouth in Wales. The famous Rockfield Studios. So last year we went there for a week. We ran 2 retreats and a masterclass in the middle. So we'll have songwriters, musicians come to Rockfield, and we get in headline producers, pretty big producers, and we each day on the retreat they'll write, record, produce, mix a track. So it's one song every day. And then we'll switch the groups over, switch the songwriters who are working with the producers. So then they'll collaborate with a different group of people the next day to write another song. Which honestly is incredible, just to like see what people can do in that day.
And are they all working together?
So
collaborating. We
tend to have maybe 12-ish, depends on each retreat, songwriters per retreat, and then they'll get split into groups of maybe 3, 4, 5 with the producer, which will then switch the next day. So they'll work in that group during that day. Sometimes we'll pick a featured artist, so they'll write for that featured artist because people come and they want material to use on their next album, or they want to release a song, or sometimes we write for a brief. So they'll write a song for, like, if a song is needed for a sync deal or something like that.
Yeah.
So then they'll write for that artist, they'll sing. a lot of the people, well, are musicians anyway, so we look at that, whether they've got a variety of musicians in the room as well. But then also the style of the producer as well. So we've had Stu Jackson, who's Massive Attack's producer, and it's like, okay, which artist can work with him to like create something a bit different? And then we have a guy called Gethin Pearson, who's worked with like Charlie XCX, who is very into production. He's a songwriter, musician himself, and the stuff he creates is incredible. So yeah, it's just like all the musicians, songwriters collaborating. They'll then get records by the end of it. I'm head engineer of Project 7, so I'll go in and sometimes engineer for the producers, work with the writers in the room. The most intense sessions, because it's like at the start of the day you have nothing, and then by lunch you may have some sort of ideas, and then you track stuff. By the end of the day you have an incredible song.
So they're mostly just tracking, because I imagine the songwriters, there's not like necessarily like drummers there.
No, so it tends to be acoustic things. When we were in Brighton, we took over a hotel and we made pop-up studios in the hotel rooms. So obviously they were limited with the instruments that they brought, or whether the producer has software instruments, whether they're a programmer. So it's the approach the producer wants to take, essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas when we're at Rockfield, one of the producers we had was Greg Haver, who is an incredible drummer himself. So he wanted to work in Studio 1, which has the drum room.
Nice.
So he ended up drumming, creating some massive rock tracks, and he brought an engineer with him. But that's his thing. So he like laid the drum track down from the start, and then they wrote around that. They had some idea before that. Whereas like Stu Jackson is more into like experimental things. So they went in like the reverb chamber and like recorded some vocals in there, and like got out the spring reverbs, got out the tape machine. Like honestly incredible.
Doing weird stuff.
Just doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
And then Gethin might do more like polished production, but then the like vocal production, the effects, like incredible.
So I guess you learn a lot, right?
I learned so much on those retreats, and it's great for me just to like do something different and just like dip in and out the rooms, because I'll also get loads of content during that week as well. And just like seeing what people can do, but then also I then go and problem solve as well, just to like, because the songwriters, they're just there to songwrite essentially. So it's like making sure everything is working. Because then we're sponsored by Prism Sound as well, so we'll get Prism Sound interfaces, and I'm lucky enough to have one in my studio as well. So it's making sure we know the equipment and just getting it all working.
So Prism Sound interfaces, what do you like about them? I have interest. I've heard of them, but I've never used them.
Sound quality is incredible, and just like user-friendly software. But the quality of them is incredible.
Nice.
So we partnered with them, but then also we partnered with PMC speakers. We get Roland keyboards in. We've had Audio Technica bring mics in. Fantastic. It's just like the equipment there is incredible. And
as Rockfield probably has loads of stuff there already.
Rockfield has everything.
Tape machines.
Exactly. Just like their mic collection is incredible.
Because I don't know, is it still a working studio all the time?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
They're packed.
Wow.
But they tend, because it's residential, they'll get in bands for a couple of weeks or whatever. Like Paolo Nutini just did his last album there and things like that.
And there's nothing around there, is it? It's like
honestly, it's
no
a farm.
distractions.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. You walk out and there's some horses. Like it's, you completely step away.
Fantastic.
It's a cool place. But Project 7 were songwriting retreats and masterclasses and
And what sort of things specifically, have there been any sort of like game changing lessons you've learned doing stuff there that you've learned from other producers, the way they do things?
I think it's just like we're actually all very similar in that maybe the thought process I might have in the studio of like, I don't know, it's realising that people are quite similar in the way they work, and it's like a reminder that, oh, hang on, I do actually know quite a lot about that. And being a producer engineer myself with other people, it's like, oh, we might run into the same problems as these people that create massive records, sell millions of records, who work with these incredible bands, and then I might go and help them with something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, hang on, this is actually really cool.
We're all in the same boat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Does it demystify?
I think so. And then you hang out with them after, and like, we just chat about stories, and it's like they want to know about my stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's actually really cool. And like, yeah, they'll tell stories about their bands and stuff, but it's just like seeing the different ways that they work and stuff. It's like everyone knows a hell of a lot, but possibly not about everything. And it's like, oh, maybe I know more about that than, oh, maybe they do. So
I find it's interesting that I've learned that actually everyone has the area that they're most comfortable in, their specialities.
Exactly.
And I used to fight that about myself. Yeah. You
don't have to know everything, because when we get these producers in, they have their requests, as in, I would like this because of this is the way I work, and like that's okay. Yeah. And like it's okay to have that. It's okay. Like you're gonna work your best when you're in your comfortable like environment. And if you don't feel comfortable in the space, you're not gonna get the most out of it. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we do before we prep, like the equipment that they want, or spaces.
I find that I'm really comfortable with bands. I love doing live bands because that's what I do for a living, and it's what I'm comfortable with. I don't know how to do a trap song. Yeah. I have no idea. It's not my area. No. And I've got to the point now where I'm like, I'm not going to pretend that I know what that stuff is. I'm just going to do what.
But that's fine, and that's how they've made. That's why they're the producers that they are. Yeah. Because they're really good at that.
Yeah, their thing.
You get the producers that can do everything, and that's incredible. Yeah. But it's like, you are going to be better at one thing. Yeah, yeah. It's like Stu Jackson's records. They sound like Massive Attack. Yeah. It's like, that's his thing.
Yeah, that's the way he hears it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And like, when he's doing film scores and stuff, it's like, they want him because of that. It's like, they don't want him because of, oh, we could potentially create this. It's like, they know what he can create. And it's just really interesting seeing that, and it's like, oh, hang on, they're not actually incredible at everything. They're a producer because they're incredible at that thing. Yeah.
And you get some of those old school producers who actually don't know how anything works.
Exactly, which is when cool. I would then go in and engineer for them. Yeah. Because they just don't touch computers. Yeah. Which is great. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's interesting seeing that.
I think that's a bit more old school. I don't know, someone like Rick Rubin who just sits at the back of the room. Yeah. That's quite cool.
But I think that's also what is a producer. Yeah, yeah. Because I feel like people now will say they're a producer when a bedroom producer who sits and creates beats all day. To me, a producer is possibly more like Quincy Jones time, where it is that person that sits at the back and be like, turn that up, oh hang on, that bit needs that little instrument, or something like that. Yeah, yeah. It's like, what is a producer? Yeah.
Well, now it's engineering and producing have become synonymous with each other. Yeah. Whereas actually they're not the same jobs. No. And I've gone and done studio sessions with people who are great engineers. Yeah. Terrible producers.
Yeah. Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah. Because they're two different skills. Yeah. And if you're in a room with someone who's giving an opinion on something and it's not helping, it's the worst. Yeah. It's the worst thing ever.
But it's also down to, because of the accessibility of equipment, and you can get incredible equipment now for cheaper, which lets you do everything. It's like people are doing everything, but then maybe that puts down the people that have the incredible knowledge about engineering, which other people just don't understand. It's because they just don't know about it. Yeah. And then possibly for us who are engineers, it's like people are now paying for engineers because they can do it themselves. Yeah. Because they don't understand what, as in they literally don't know what there is to know. And it's like, yeah, it's a bit demoralising sometimes.
I think engineering is mostly, I don't know if you'd agree, it's mostly listening. Yeah. And the concepts behind it are actually quite simple. But it's doing something and then going, okay, does this sound good?
But it's simple because you have the knowledge.
True.
Of that.
It's only easy when you know how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some people just get it. Some people get away with doing it. But it's like they then don't understand why they would then pay for someone else.
Sure. And I find it's a bit of a problem. People recording stuff at home is great.
Yeah.
But it's a problem with when you're going to get to, let's say someone's done all the vocals at home, which I have no problem with.
Yeah.
But when they've done it with a shit mic and
Yeah.
they've done it badly,
Yeah.
and then they're like,
why doesn't it sound like this?
I want it to sound like the last Foo Fighters record, and you go, I can't do it. And I think because I'm so used to recording things myself in my own studio, that I don't often come against those problems, because if I've done it, then it sounds good from the beginning.
No, I've definitely come across that, and that I've had a couple of records where I've been asked to, I may have recorded them previously, but then they have chosen to record it themselves now because of budget, or they've got the equipment or that sort of thing, and then they've asked me to mix it, and it's like, hang on, mixing this record is not the same as the last record, because the last record I recorded.
Yeah.
And then you come across mixing this record where it's just like, firstly you have to understand what they've done, and like then all the levels are all over the place, and it's like, it's actually a hell of a lot more work mixing this one, because it's not the sound that you created.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I don't know if you found this, but when when it's something that I've mixed and then, something I've recorded and then I've mixed it, there's very little mixing to do, because
you've prepped it.
Yeah, the sound is what I wanted when I got it.
Yeah.
And if I'm EQing, it tends to be, additional EQ.
Yeah.
I'm not removing horrible sounds. No. I'm just going, it needs more top end. And it's really fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm just doing stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if someone sends me something...
you're then trying to fix stuff, which it's like, that's harder.
It takes ages.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, there's a horrible frequency here, and there's one here, and take this one out, and now it sounds the same.
And then it's like, you might as well... And then I've had it where we've then re-recorded it.
Yeah.
Because you can then mix it better.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not the point.
No.
I'm happy to do it, but then it's like, oh, hang on, you're actually recording, and then it comes into the whole, like, budget, and it's like, you then have to think about money, and that's just the boring thing.
Yeah, and I get it.
It's your job, as in you're literally making a career out of this.
Yeah.
If people don't understand that, that's tricky.
Yeah.
Because this is literally our career.
Yeah. And
we sometimes forget that because we love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's fair. I totally get why people have to do things for financial reasons.
100%.
I'm totally supportive of it.
Yeah.
It's just, it is challenging, I think.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah.
And
I'm all for people doing it themselves for various reasons. It's just, if you've worked with them before, then I feel like it's sometimes, it's harder.
Yeah. It's all. I think for those people as well, it's a learning curve recording yourself as well.
Yeah.
Because people don't realise that actually a vocal might sound really weird if you comp together 42 takes of you singing each word individually.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it. They've sent it to you, and you're just going. This is why people shouldn't record themselves, because it's chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's really cool that Project 7 stuff.
Yeah. That's really fun.
Really exciting. I feel like we've probably talked for a long time, which is good because which is what we're here to do. So, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Oh, social media at Indi Productions. Website www.indibproductions.com or email me indy@indibproductions.com.
Yeah. Your website is fantastic, by the way. I went on it today.
Thanks.
It's much better than my website. I was like, I need to.
I redid it. I redid it recently.
Yeah.
No, it's just so hard to. I mean, all our jobs are 3 people that we know, as in a lot of them word of mouth, and it's like you have to present yourself so that when people do come across your stuff, it's like you want it to be authentic, but also show off what you've done, because otherwise people aren't going to know.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard.
Putting your best stuff forward is always challenging. I think, like, because
it's just the world of social media. It's just like, oh, I mean, I love it. I love social media and I love creating content, but then sometimes you do have to. I mean, you have to big yourself up a little bit and be like, oh, I've done this really cool project. Oh, go and look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, listen to this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just people don't know your stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never ever going to get into TikTok. I've discovered. I don't think I'm ever going to do that ever.
No.
But you know, you can just do what you can do. I know some phenomenally talented people who don't get as much work as they should because they just don't want to spend their time on social media, and I get it.
Or they're just too busy.
Yeah.
Doing the actual work.
I wonder how some people have the time to do it. Do you ever look at some of these YouTube people?
Because people make money out of it.
And that's all they do. It must be.
But then you've got to get to that point of making money out of it. So you've got to create enough content at the start.
Yeah.
To then get enough views, to then get paid.
I find it hard enough to find the time just to do the actual work.
Yeah.
Let alone be like,
oh,
I'll do the YouTube video about, because if I do YouTube, it takes a whole bloody day.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the day I could be spend doing
earning
some
money.
Music.
Yeah. Or doing,
doing some actual stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
there you go.
if people want to make a record with you or they want you to do sound for them or
anything,
any of that stuff,
then
they can contact you.
Thank you.